In Tokyo's boardrooms, a quiet warning echoes. No help if China strikes Taiwan. Japanese officials are telling companies, don't count on military rescue. No troops, no airlifts, no promises. Firms are now running secret evacuation drills, not expansion plans. As tensions rise, Japan's message is clear. You're on your own. Japanese government officials have been privately warning companies operating in Taiwan that they should not expect military assistance from Tokyo in the event of a Chinese attack. That's according to individuals familiar with the matter, cited in a Financial Times report on July 19th. The message has been delivered over the past 3 years to risk officers and executives, as well as through back-channel diplomatic conversations. A Japanese official told the Financial Times that under the country's pacifist constitution, Japan's self-defense forces cannot be deployed abroad unless a host government grants permission. The official added it is unlikely China would approve Japanese military evacuations on the island.
Given that Japan does not recognize Taiwan diplomatically, as with all but 12 countries in the world, there is no government in Taiwan from our viewpoint.
Another Japanese official echoed that point, saying any evacuation efforts involving the military would be legally and politically unfeasible. The implications of these conversations are now affecting Japanese business decisions. One person present during such discussions said diplomats told firms plainly,
You are on your own if you put significant assets in Taiwan.
This has had a chilling effect. Foreign direct investment from Japan into Taiwan dropped 27% last year to $452 million. According to Financial Times data, that's down from $1.7 billion in 2022. Meanwhile, American and British investments have risen, driven largely by growth in data centers and offshore wind infrastructure. A US official familiar with the matter said that while US investment continues to grow, Japanese business interest is lagging, impacted by the perceived absence of security guarantees and Tokyo's own caution.
It has discouraged investment. There is lots of new US investment in Taiwan, but barely any Japanese.
Without firm security assurances, Japanese firms are retreating from Taiwan, highlighting geopolitical risk over profit in boardroom calculations. Roughly 3,000 Japanese companies operate in Taiwan, many in semiconductors, electronics, and manufacturing. According to Teikoku Databank, about a third of them are manufacturers. According to 2 people familiar with the matter, some have begun running annual simulations of how to evacuate personnel in the event of a Chinese military strike. Japanese government officials have attended these drills, but only informally. One person involved in the planning said any evacuation would likely need to occur before an actual invasion, and that firms would need to act discreetly to avoid attracting Beijing's attention. Another person involved added that operations would be entirely private sector-led.
This scenario doesn't have any self-defense forces or military support.
Despite Tokyo's public reassurances, skepticism remains inside boardrooms. A Japanese executive told the Financial Times that without clear commitments from either the Japanese or US governments, many companies are reviewing the viability of long-term investments in Taiwan. Their risk assessments, he said, are leading to little interest in expanding business on the island. Japan's Defense Ministry, when asked, said any response to a Taiwan emergency would be based on constitutional and legal considerations. The Foreign Ministry reiterated that evacuating Japanese nationals abroad remains a top priority and that all possible means would be considered should a crisis arise.
The country's response would be implemented on an individual and specific basis in accordance with the Constitution, international law, and domestic laws and regulations, including the legislation for peace and security. In the event of a situation where the evacuation of Japanese nationals is necessary anywhere in the world, including Taiwan, we will make every effort to support the evacuation by utilizing the fastest and safest means while exploring all possibilities.
For now, the message from Tokyo remains clear. companies in Taiwan should prepare to fend for themselves. The United States has recently asked Japan and Australia to clarify their positions and readiness in the event of a possible Chinese invasion of Taiwan, seeking specific commitments regarding their roles in a potential US-China conflict over the island. This diplomatic push, reportedly led by US Under-Secretary of Defense Elbridge Colby, was conducted behind closed doors and, according to several reports, both Tokyo and Canberra were caught off guard by the directness and timing of the US request. The Financial Times first reported on the matter, highlighting the US's urge for its Asia-Pacific allies to state more explicitly how they would respond to a conflict scenario. Australia's response has been clear. Its government will not pre-commit troops or actions in advance. Australian Defence Industry Minister Pat Conroy publicly stated that any possible participation in a Taiwan conflict would only be a decision by the government of the day, not in advance, reaffirming that Australia will assess its involvement based on circumstances at the time. Conroy stressed Australia's concern over China's growing military presence and efforts to establish regional bases, but maintained that pre-committing troops is not Australia's current policy. This cautious stance reflects both domestic sensitivities and the awareness that an outright pre-commitment could provoke public backlash and escalate regional tensions. Japan's reply was similarly non-committal. Japanese officials reportedly dodged the question, characterizing it as too hypothetical to answer. Analysts note that while Japan has been steadily increasing its defense spending, modernizing its military, and engaging in joint exercises, moves widely seen as preparation and deterrence against Chinese aggression, Tokyo remains reluctant to make public promises regarding military involvement in a Taiwan contingency. Japan's support to regional partners, such as providing defense equipment to the Philippines, is viewed as part of its broader strategic alignment with the US, but there is little urgency or concrete planning beyond contingencies like evacuations of its southern islands and preparations for civil defense. Observers in both China and the US interpret this lack of explicit commitment as reluctance to be seen as a co-belligerent in advance, partly because even the US does not openly guarantee military intervention to defend Taiwan. The pressing for commitments is seen as a way for Washington to share the burden and present a united front. But public assurances remain elusive, as both Japan and Australia prefer to maintain strategic ambiguity while enhancing their military preparedness.